Welcome everyone, this is Honest Restart, and today I want to talk about Pokémon Scarlet and Violet and my questionable excitement for these games. Why is it in question? Why is it not as strong as it has been in the past? And I'm talking about this today not just because I want to sort of speak negatively on Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, actually the opposite. There's a lot of great things I'm seeing about these games that lead me to believe that maybe I should be more excited about these games when I try and think about it objectively. But for whatever reason, it seems like my excitement, my hype is tempered more so than in the past. And I don't feel like it's just myself either. I feel like across the board, at least based off what I perceive from social media and speaking to different people, it doesn't seem like that hype level, that excitement we've had for previous Pokemon games is quite there this time around, even though there are some objectively great things they're doing this time around. So that's what we're talking about today, the questionable excitement surrounding Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now before we jump into things, let me very briefly mention my social media. You may see a few different things here on screen. You can check that all out. It's linked in the description below. And of course, if you like what you're seeing here, you can subscribe or perhaps consider joining as a member. So I think a point I want to tackle first is just the number of things I think they're doing right with these games that seem really good and have me sort of wondering, oh, this might be a pretty fun experience, but then I'll get into why I think maybe I'm not as excited as I would have been. So there's a lot of things actually, right? These are the first true open world Pokemon games. They're taking it a step up from Pokemon Legends Arceus. And Pokemon Legends Arceus is a game that I was very excited about, and it's one of the best Pokemon games I've played in years. It's one of the best experiences, and it's coming directly from Game Freak. Game Freak is the main developers for the mainline Pokemon series, and they can make a good game, because Legends Arceus was just that, a really, really good game. But with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, they're going back to more of the traditional mainline series, with the traditional style of Pokemon, but they're still doing different things here, which is also exciting. You can do things out of order, you can do gyms out of order, there are 3 different story paths, and it's offering you a different way to play through a Pokemon game than ever before. And this is exciting. It seems to be taking another cue from Breath of the Wild in the sort of sense that you can traverse the game and the world and accomplish tasks and missions in any sort of order you choose. Everyone's Pokemon experience is going to be a little different. I think that's awesome. But I'll also say, from what we've heard, the challenge of per gym leader will not scale based off how much you've gotten done. And to me, that kind of dampens my excitement already a little bit, because I want a challenging Pokemon game. And if I just do things in a certain order, I may find myself going back to some of the earlier gyms that I could have done early on and just beat them like nothing, because, well, that's just the way the game is designed. So I am a little concerned about that, but on the flip side, I also can challenge some of the harder gyms earlier on, and there will be challenge there. I guess ultimately what I'm concerned about is the late game and how challenging that will be. Early game, I'm sure there will be some challenge, which is exciting, but I'm very curious as to how things will pan out when we progress into the later parts of the game. But either way, I think this is at least an exciting departure from what we've seen in the past, so still it's something I want to try out, something I want to play. And there are other cool mechanics we've seen as well. The Let's Go feature, where you can actually have your Pokemon roam around with you and do wild battles on its own automatically. We even saw some gameplay where we saw multiple Pokemon doing this at once. That's incredible. I think that's something that could go over really well with speeding up and improving the flow of the gameplay. It's a great way to gain more experience and gain items while still exploring and enjoying the world. And it's something that makes the game feel a little bit more organic to me. It's something that makes it feel more like how things would be if you were actually in a real Pokemon world as an actual Pokemon trainer. You could have your Pokemon roam around and battles would happen fluidly in that way oftentimes. So I really appreciate that. And on the note of the battles, the fact that the battles actually happen in the overworld this time around, and there is a little bit of a real-time effect there, it's something similar to Legends Arceus, is building off of that, but obviously there are some differences. I appreciate that as well. And on the note of the overworld, I do love the setting. It's inspired by Spain. For me, it's right up my alley. It's exciting. I love that. And I also appreciate how we are seeing different Pokemon revealed every week, and they all have very unique designs. I actually feel like the designs this time around and the ideas behind them are very strong. The most recent example, Gimmighoul, we've seen signs of it through Pokemon Go, and now we're seeing actual footage of it in the game. And what's cool about this Pokemon is it has two different forms, but one of the forms is outside of the chest, and apparently no trainer's been able to catch it before out in the wild like that. It just kind of runs away from you. What's exciting to me about this is that it's showing footage, it's showing an example of how you're not going to just see Pokemon just standing there randomly and you run into them in a battle engages. It's actually something that feels a little bit more like a living, breathing world where there's some interactivity there. There are different elements for different Pokemon that will lead to different situations, and that also is exciting to me, and this is just one of many examples. So it seems like they're putting more attention to detail with what goes on in the world, and this time around you can actually play the game online cooperatively with 4 other players, and that's also really exciting. It's adding another layer to the gameplay, being able to play it entirely with your friends. All of this is exciting to me. I think this is all really good stuff. And yet, even with all of this in mind and then some, I still find myself not completely overwhelmed with excitement and hype for these games. I've been more excited for previous Pokemon games that, when I look on objectively, perhaps weren't even that great of games. So why is it do I find myself in the situation where my expectations are really not that high? Ultimately, I think it's for a combination of reasons. One, I think the overall performance and visual fidelity we've seen so far just isn't super impressive. So yeah, I think that impacts things. Now, I understand that once the games finally come out, they will probably look and run a little bit better than what they showed off initially. So I'm still excited for the games, it's just somewhat limited, and I understand that part of the reason why we don't see such significant visual leaps per game is because they are coming out per year. They can only afford to make small leaps, and when you take into consideration that Game Freak has far more experience with handheld systems, and historically speaking, then they've never really been the kind of company to really push the hardware. There's some exceptions, but overall that's not their history. Then my expectations in general wouldn't be that high for incredible performance and visuals from a Pokemon game. But with these games coming out every single year, I think that's probably where a lot of the, I guess, exhaustion comes from. We're a bit oversaturated right now. We are getting a game every single year. And specifically, we just came off of Legends Arceus, one of my favorite Pokemon games ever. I thought it was a really good game. I loved it a lot. And I was excited for it. There's a great deal of hype going into that game. I think I just haven't been given enough time to rest or recover. I think I need to be given more time to miss the Pokemon series. I think that's important. With them coming out with something every single year, it leaves a little bit to be desired for me. But with this being a whole new generation, as a longtime Pokemon fan, I don't feel like I can skip them. And as I said beforehand, there are so many things that they are doing that at an objective level, I recognize these are sizable improvements for the series. They are taking steps forward, and I want to try them out. I just feel that my excitement could have been better had we waited just a few more months, had we seen the games come out with a little bit more polish and we were given a little bit more time to miss the games. With this all said, I do want to say that I plan on buying these games. I'm going to play these games, and I think I'm going to enjoy them. And I think another reason why my expectations may be somewhat limited is simply for personal reasons, where I'm at in life and with what I've got going on. Maybe playing the Pokemon games isn't really at the top of my sort of to-do list right now, so, you know, I'm not super excited about it, especially when they haven't done enough to me that makes it seem like this is an incredible leap compared to previous games, and there's just so much going on here, even though, in actuality, there is a lot great they're doing here. There is a visual leap. This is an open world adventure. This is an adventure that we can do in our own way. There are new mechanics going on with the Let's Go mechanic, and cooperative online play. Like, these are all things that I think are going to improve the experience. So it's entirely possible that while I'm making this video questioning my excitement for the games, when they come out in a few weeks, I'm gonna buy them, I'm going to play them, and I'm gonna be like, wow, they're pretty good, and I'm glad they're out now. So we'll see what happens, but I just felt like it was worth discussing this situation, because I feel like there are other people who feel similarly, that there's just too many games coming out too quickly, and perhaps they maybe should slow down a little bit. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, everyone, this is On This Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.